Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. So today we're doing the WBO Champions Report as I do my bi-monthly report on all title belts and champions in every governing body. This one is going to be on the World Boxing Organization and all their champions and title belts from 122 all the way to heavyweight. Again, this is my bi-monthly report that I do. So this would be of this year of 2024. This is my 4th edition. At the end of August, I'll do it at the end of October, and then I'll have my year-end champions report. Before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So we're going to kick it off with any news that I've heard. We start at 122 pounds, where the reigning, undefeated, undisputed champion is Naoya Inoue. Inoue returned, I wasn't able to get the Champions Report done before his title fight came off on September 3rd when he defended his 4 belts against TJ Doheny and dominated him, stopping him in 7 rounds to retain his WBO and undisputed Super Bantamweight Championship. What we know is that Inoue is planning on returning at the end of the year. That was the original plan. That still seems to be the plan. And there's about 3 options on the table, which first would be one of his 2 mandatories. There's Sam Goodman from Australia, who's undefeated. There's former unified champion MJ Marajan Akhmadaliev. And then there's Bantamweight champion Junto Nakatani, who returns in October to defend his belt. And if he's victorious, there's a lot of people that think the end of the year could be that fight right there between Inoue and Nakatani. So gonna be interesting to see what gets decided. I do hope by the next Champions Report, and I do believe at the end of October, that we're gonna know and have a fight signed, sealed, and ready to go for the end of the year. And hopefully I can give you a prediction on that for Inoue. Next at 126 featherweight, the reigning undefeated champion is Rafael Espinosa. And just a couple days ago, the WBO ordered the rematch between Espinosa and Robeisy Ramirez from their showdown in December of last year, and what was a Fight of the Year candidate that saw Espinosa win a close majority decision where both guys tasted the canvas. This is going to be a good rematch. It will not pop off before the next Champions Report, but I do believe it's going to happen before the end of the year. I really wouldn't be surprised if they shared a card with the next fight we're going to talk about at 130, Navarrete and Valdez, the rematch. So we'll see what happens, but I'm really looking forward to this rematch. It should be signed and sealed by the next Champions Report, and then I'll give my prediction on it before the end of the year. Next at 130 super featherweight, the reigning champion there is Emmanuel Navarrete of Mexico. What we've heard is that a rematch, the rematch was ordered for Navarrete to fight Oscar Valdez again. And we weren't sure at the end of the last Champions Report if Navarrete would be returning to 130 or not, following his loss at 135 to Denis Berianchek when he challenged for the vacant WBO lightweight championship. But the last I heard is that they are working on finalizing a deal for the rematch for December, it looks like. So, as I said, I think it'd be a great idea for both Navarrete and Valdez rematch to take place the same night as Ramirez and Espinosa. I think that'd be badass to have both those rematches on the same card, but we'll see what goes down there. Next at 135, the reigning undefeated champion there is Denis Berianchek. He captured the title in May when he defeated Emmanuel Navarrete, who moved up to challenge him for the vacant belt. There was a lot on the table, but now that everybody else has made their decision on what they're going to do, I don't know what is going to go down, to be honest, for Denis Berianchek. It's kind of disappointing because I really thought he was going to get, there was a chance of Shakur Stevenson, but Stevenson decided to not re-sign with Top Rank, and he went over to Matchroom and is fighting Joe Cordina instead. And for Berianchek, I thought Raymond Murataya, who's highly ranked, William Zepeda or Raymond Murataya would be next in line, but neither one of them are available. William Zepeda is going to return against somebody else from what I heard, because he's building up for a showdown with Shakur Stevenson next year. And then Raymond Murataya is returning on November 2nd, or November 8th now. I think one of those two cards Raymond Murataya is going to be on, taking on a lesser competition. So I was surprised by that. But looking at the guys highly ranked in the WBO, I think there's a solid chance that Zaur Abdullayev gets the opportunity. He's ranked number 4, and he's the only guy in the top 4 right there that doesn't have a fight coming up next. So I do think Abdullayev could land the showdown with Barianchik. Hopefully we find out by the next Champions Report what's going on with that. Next at 140, junior welterweight. The reigning champion there is Teofimo Lopez. Haven't heard anything concrete on what Lopez is going to do before the end of the year. You know, he's had 2 underwhelming performances this year against Jermaine Ortiz and against Steve Claggett back at the end of June. So there's obviously speculation. There was talks about him and Crawford. There was talks about him and Brian Norman, but nothing materialized, and those guys have already moved on to other fights now. Seemingly. Crawford hasn't yet, but he's seemingly moving on, or trying for the Canelo showdown of sorts. So I'm hoping by the next Champions Report we have Lopez's next fight ready to go, or at least we know which direction he's going in. Right now, Arnold Barboza is his number 1 contender, but I heard Barboza is lining up for a showdown with Jose Ramirez. Jack Catterall is number 2, and he's fighting Regis Prograis. And then Richardson Hitchens doesn't look like he's getting the IBF title shot, but I don't think Lopez is going to want to fight Hitchens at number 3. Ramirez and Martin are locked up. He's already beaten Josh Taylor, who's number 6. Prograis is locked up. So I don't know who Lopez is going to fight. I'm sure Top Rank will give him somebody, but I really couldn't tell you right now what I think Lopez is going to do next. And again, hopefully by the next Champions Report, we hear some kind of news on him. Next at 147 welterweight, the newly upgraded undefeated champion is Brian Norman Jr. Brian Norman is set to return. I think the guy's name is Derek Cuevas in November. He's going to make his first title defense there. Terrence Crawford vacated the WBO belt after capturing the world title at 154. So Norman, who was the interim champion after defeating Giovanni Santillan for the belt, was upgraded to full champion, and now Norman will make an optional defense against Derek Cuevas, which a lot of people are disappointed though, because Norman was supposed to was looking at a unification bout with Boots Ennis, the IBF champion, but he apparently scoffed at a $1.5 million offer, and the fight's not going forward. So Norman returns in November. My next Champions Report is going to take place prior to his defense, so I'll give my prediction on that fight on my next Champions Report. Next, at 154, super welterweight, the champion there is unified champ Sebastian Fundora, who also holds the WBC belt. Up in the air about what's going to happen next. We know Fundora has a date penciled in for October, which is fast approaching, to fight Errol Spence Jr. But the WBO just ordered Fundora to fight Terrence Crawford, who is the interim champion and also the WBA champ. So there's a lot of moving pieces here. My personal belief is that Crawford is going to forego the showdown with Fundora, allowing Fundora to remain champion, and then Fundora will fight Errol Spence. Now that could be pushed back to November now, but I think he will fight Errol Spence, even though we don't have a date or anything, so I'm not going to give a prediction on that, but I think that's what's going to happen, because then Crawford can go after whoever he wants and then fight the winner of that fight in a unification bout, because he's also highly ranked by the WBC right now. So there's a lot of moving pieces, as I said, but I do believe Crawford is going to forego that mandatory because he really does want something else, but he could not, and we really don't know. I'm hoping by the next Champions Report we get some kind of concrete information on it. Now, if Crawford pushes for this fight and Fundora passes, then Crawford becomes the new champion and will be unified WBO, WBA champ. So we will see what happens by the next Champions Report on the WBO belt at 154. Next at 160 middleweight, the reigning undefeated unified champion is Janibek Anamanhalai, Kazakh style. Janibek was supposed to fight in July. He had suffered some dehydration, had to be hospitalized, and his fight with Andrei Mikhailovich was postponed. These two guys are discussing, well, actually, a purse bid was won by Mikhailovich's people to get the fight to go over to Australia. So it looks like Janibek will be making a mandatory defense against Mikhailovich. It looks like November. So once that fight gets finalized, I'll give my prediction on that fight by the next Champions Report at the end of October. Next at 168, the reigning champion and unified champ is Saul Canelo Alvarez. Canelo is set to return this Saturday, September 14th, to defend his unified belts against undefeated Edgar Berlanga. I got Canelo scoring a break. He's going to break down and knock out Edgar Berlanga to retain his 3 remaining super middleweight championships. And hopefully by the next Champions Report, we know what Canelo is going to do. But Saturday, September 14th, Amazon and DAZN pay-per-view, you're going to see Canelo and Berlanga for the WBO and unified super middleweight championship of the world at 168. Next at 175 light heavyweight, it is finally here. By the next Champions Report, we are going to have an undisputed light heavyweight world champion at 175 as reigning unified undefeated champion Artur Beterbiev is going to face off against undefeated WBA champion Dimitri Bivol, as they will bring all 4 light heavyweight world titles together and face off for the undisputed light heavyweight championship of the world. Really looking forward to that. My prediction on the fight, I'm doing a breakdown video on that fight. So if I do a breakdown video, I do not release my predictions before my breakdown video. So breakdown video is coming out very soon, but I can't wait to see that fight Saturday, October 12th on ESPN Plus now, and it could only be for 10 or 15 bucks. Can't wait to see it. Beterbiev Bivol, undisputed light heavyweight championship of the world. By the next Champions Report, we'll see who the champion is. 200 cruiserweight. The reigning champion there is Chris Billam-Smith of the United Kingdom. Now, Billam-Smith is working out a deal to unify belts with undefeated WBA champion Gilberto Ramirez. These two guys are going to square off likely in November. The fight is not finalized yet. Hopefully by the next Champions Report, we have a finalized fight. We know where and when, likely going to be on DAZN to unify belts. That's big. I'm excited for that one. And then finally, December 21st, we already know, reigning WBO and undefeated heavyweight champion of the world, unified heavyweight champion of the world, Alexander Usyk will defend his 3 remaining heavyweight championships when he battles former 2-time heavyweight champion Tyson Fury in a rematch from their showdown in May. That is not until December 21st, so I will not make my prediction yet until the breakdown video for that one, because that's another breakdown. But we'll discuss that one more on the next Champions Report at the end of October. But fights coming up, titles going on the line. Remember, undisputed October 12th between Beterbiev and Bivol. I think that might be the only locked in, if I'm off the top of my head, that might be the only locked in WBO title fight between now and the end of October. But a lot of moving pieces, a lot of announcements. Really looking forward to seeing what happens on all WBO belts. But that is my 4th edition of 2024 of the bi-monthly WBO Champions Report, as I cover all title belts and champions from 122 all the way to heavyweight. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.